I don't want young people to tell me what to do.
So I'll be like, oh, does that mean I should call you Nuna? And they're like,
she's like, and I'm like, She's like, okay, okay, see you, all right, and then hang up.
Hi everybody, and this is Pagoda One, and I am Alex from England. Who are you?
Sounds like the news broadcast is about dun, 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 you know?
welcome back to the news.
BBC Radio 4. I'm Alex from England.
I'm Swanee from America.
And I'm Travis from Australia.
And today we are going to talk about, what are we talking about?
Oh. Weird things, don't be offended, things that we've noticed Korean people do.
Unusual
things
Yes.
compared to...
Perfectly acceptable things, but slightly unusual to the eyes of the outsiders.
Yes.
Things that
Confuse us.
Yes.
Perfect.
It's a little strange. My example is a lot of Korean people, not a lot of Korean people, I'd say all Korean people, they count age differently. So when you're born, you're 1, and then on January 1st of the next year, you're 2. So if you were born on December 31st, 2020, you are now 2 years old. So congratulations to all the 2-year-old babies out there. So now this may not seem like that big of a deal. It might seem like slightly weird, but the thing is that age hierarchy in this country is a big deal. People do not like to be told what to do by people younger than them, or they don't like it when people use like casual language towards them if they don't know them very well. For example, many years ago I used to work for a private institute, and my co-teacher was this Korean guy. He was about 23 years old, and he had to do his army service. He lived in Australia for a while, so I guess he got a deferment. So he didn't do his army service when everybody else did. He was instead going to do it when he was a little bit older. And what this meant was he was going to have to take orders from people younger than him. I come into work one day and I'm like, hey man, how's it going? And he's like, oh man, I'm really stressed, Alex. I'm really stressed. I'm like, what are you stressed about? I was like, oh, I don't want to go to the army. I don't want to do my my military service. I'm like, oh yeah, I understand. Like waking up early in the morning and marching around, it sounds like a real drag. He's like, no, it's not that. I don't want young people to tell me what to do. And I was like, young people? Like, what are we talking here? Like 16-year-olds? If a 21-year-old like gives me orders, it's really gonna grind my gears. It's really gonna make me angry. I'm like, okay, like, I mean, I can kind of see that, but like 23, 21, it's not that. Is that big of a deal?
Yeah.
If Swanee told me to do something, I wouldn't be that offended by it. You know, she's like, hey, come on, you're always leaving your stuff on the table. You know, like I wouldn't be that mad about it. If Swanee was like Korean and I was Korean, then I would be like, don't talk to me that way. Don't talk to me, you know. So that's one thing I find strange about this country.
It goes both ways though, because like the older don't want to hear anything from the younger side, but if you're younger, then the older one has kind of like a responsibility towards you. So like, for example, my cousins who are like older than me, like if I need something, if I was hungry, I could just be like, Annie, like I'm hungry. And she's like, okay, like, you know, she gets up and like makes me food, you know what I mean? Like she would like take care of me, like as like a older person. They'll pay for things much more than you and like things like that. So it's kind of like pros and cons.
So there's an upside to it.
There is, yeah, there actually is. But maybe there's more cons, but yeah, there are some pros.
But you're partially Korean, so like you can access that a little bit.
Yeah, right.
As a foreigner, we don't really have access to that. But I will say, I do thoroughly enjoy messing with Koreans a little bit and actually using honorifics, especially like casual ones. I've done it a few times with like some co-workers that I've had, and usually my co-workers are female, so I'll be like, oh, does that mean I should call you Nuna? And they're like, ugh, and I'm like, bye.
One thing is good is like you can drink alcohol before your birthday, because like, you know, in the States you have to wait till your 21st birthday, that date, to drink. But here it's like New Year's on your technically your 18th birthday, but for here you would be turning 19, then you can just drink right away.
Right, so when the 2-year-old baby turns 19,
You're
it
correct.
doesn't matter that they're 17.
Correct.
They can get smashed.
Yes, right.
Let's get smashed.
Yeah, so if you're 17 in the States and then you come here and it's like that year is the year that you would be like 19 in Korea, then you can drink legally and go to clubs.
Oh man, yeah. It was a real drag waiting until I was 18, I'll tell you that much.
I feel like it should be said that for like anyone that's not from an English speaking country, like we do get taught manners for like respecting of different age groups and stuff like that.
Right, yeah.
But for us, it's less about the age and it's more about the demographic. So it's like child, teenager, adult, elderly.
Yeah.
That's how we make those distinctions. We don't go, oh, you're 2 years younger than me, like, do what I want.
Yeah,
Right.
and you can be friends with someone who's like 10 years older than you.
Right. Like
Whereas,
we
in,
mentioned,
whereas in this
yeah.
country, there's some sort of weird dynamic there.
A bit of
Right.
a barrier,
Yes.
Okay, what's your unusual thing?
My thing is a communication issue, and it can be very, very confusing, especially like when you first get here. You will like learn to sort of get it, but even after all this time, it still catches me. I still go, huh? What do you mean? It is, whenever you ask a question, typically if it's a yes or no question, typically native English speakers, for example, if the question is, do you have any more questions? A native speaker will be like, no, as in, no, I do not have any more questions. But Koreans will go, yes. And it's like, huh? But they mean like, yes, I don't have any more questions.
Right.
And it is so confusing.
Yeah.
Right. Like do you mind? No, I don't mind. Do you mind? Yes, go ahead. Like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like at like Starbucks, they're like, you don't want a receipt, right? And I'm like, no. And then they're like, oh, here. And I'm like, what? No. I mean, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah,
yes.
so if you make like an imperative negative statement as a question, yes means no.
Right.
Basically.
So you're
Yes.
not hungry. In Korean, they would say, yes, I am not hungry.
Right.
Yeah. That happens a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I wonder if this is how people feel about when like Australians are like, yeah, nah, yeah.
Oh, we do that too. Yeah, no, yeah.
I think every English-speaking country does that.
Yeah, right.
No, yeah.
They're like, what? Mine's more behavioral, I guess. On the phone in Korea, they don't say bye and hang up, right? So it's more like a
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
and then like eventually you just hang up.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes they say, okay, hang up. Like direct translation would be like, hang up. You're like, okay, hang up, you know? And then you hang up eventually. Whereas like for us, we just say, okay, bye. You know? Yeah. So the amount of times I go back and forth with my grandma, she's like, and I'm like, She's like, okay, see you, all right, and then hang up. Yeah. And I have another one, which is, this is not specific to Korea, but I guess Asian culture, but the Asian squat.
Oh my.
You guys
I learned how to do it recently.
Oh, you can do it. Good for you.
Yeah, for about 20 seconds, then I have to stand up.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know what the Asian squat is, it is having your 2 feet fully on the floor, your heels as well, and dropping all the way down your butt to your heels. Okay? If you don't know what it is, you can actually probably Google it and it'll come up. If you like just go outside, people are Asian squatting, like just smoking a cigarette or just like
sorcery. It's complete sorcery.
yeah, it's very like natural and normal, and like actually I do it too, I guess, because like I don't know, because I'm Korean. In the States though, this is not a common position to be in, especially like in public. They're just out there smoking a cigarette, like Asian squat, you know. That's one thing that's like really different, but I think it's comfortable and cute. But yeah, cool. Anything else?
There's one thing, I wouldn't say it's weird, but it's a quirk. It's a quirk, which is you don't pour your own drink. So somebody has to pour it for you. So if
this
you're
is cultural, I guess.
yeah, I wouldn't say that's a weird thing necessarily,
It's
but
different.
but it is something that takes getting used to, because if you're somebody who doesn't like drinking a lot, you may have no choice if you're going out with a large group of Koreans.
Yeah.
So you'll just find yourself suddenly like 8 glasses deep,
Yeah.
when normally by yourself you would only have like 1.
Right.
So that is something that takes getting used to, but I don't know if I'd call that weird.
To avoid that situation, you could leave like a little bit of alcohol in your glass, whereas then like they kind of like get the point. But I guess it really depends who you're with, because some people will be like, hey, come on, you know. If you come to Korea and you're like worried about that kind of social pressure, just leave a little alcohol in your glass and then you might be safe for a little while.
I would also say just the substitute of certain phrases for like different ones. I don't feel like people often say like, oh, how are you? It's kind of like, have you eaten?
Oh yeah.
It's more like not like asking how you are, it's just like checking that you've done like basic things.
Yeah. Did you eat lunch? Did you eat dinner? My students always come in like around lunch and time and they're like, did you eat lunch? I'm like, no, I'm teaching you, so yeah, it's lunchtime.
My students like, and they're like, have you eaten dinner? I'm like, no, I'm
here.
here.
I'm here with you, yes.
We're having a class.
I I actually really like that one. Like, it is really unusual. If you're in the States and you just say to someone like, oh, hey, how's it going? Did you eat lunch yet? They're gonna assume that you want to eat lunch with them. Yeah. Like, did you eat lunch late? Like, no. Okay, like, let's go. Let's go eat together, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's like they're genuinely just asking because they care about you and they want to know that you've eaten and you're nice and full. Yeah.
I think that's all the weirdness there is in this country.
We're just that accepting of Korean culture. What can we say?
I can't think of anything weird.
You've assimilated.
And I think that's going to do it. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. What do you think? What are weird things that people do in your country? And don't forget to like,
Subscribe.
Comment and ring that bell.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.